Hey, welcome to the 42 Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Kajila. This is a space built primarily for athletes where their stories are told and shared with the world. The name 42 means for the athlete to the world, and that's exactly our mission. Along the way, we'll also dive into everything happening in our wonderful world of sports. So whether you're an athlete, a fan, or just love a good story, you are in the right place. Hey guys, welcome to the 42 Sports Podcast. We're at the end of the week, and I hope you had a good week so far. It has been a very interesting week in the world of sports, but I think there has been no interesting development or revelation in the last few days that is bigger than what's going on in the States, particularly involving the NBA. Former NBA or current NBA player, Rozier, almost forgot his name. Wow, Terry Rozier or Rozier, and Chauncey Billups, and then Damon Jones. They were arrested. I think they have been released now. I'm not too sure. But anyways, it's kind of interesting how all of that took place pretty much a day, maybe even less, a day or less after we had that conversation about how gambling is ruining sports. And it's fascinating to see how on Wednesday we had that episode, and then on Thursday all of this news started to come out, and the FBI is involved, and it's a whole thing. It's a whole affair. It is quite big. It's national news, and I think because there's also some involvement with the mafia, which makes it an even bigger issue. It's not just a sports issue now. Now it's involving gangs and criminal activity, so that is concerning. But again, today, this is an unplanned conversation. I didn't plan to end of the week talking about gambling. I was maybe going to look at some of the weekend fixtures, but because of the gravity of the news and the weight of the news, I have to address it. And I think it's fitting that we briefly spoke about it on Wednesday. So if you do want to listen to Wednesday's episode, I think there's going to be a lot of context for what will be said in this episode. And so if you want to go back and if you want to maybe understand some of the context or where I'm coming from before listening to the rest of the episode, you're more than welcome to listen to Wednesday's one and then come back to this current one. But on Wednesday, I said 3 things about gambling and why I believe it's wrong. I think there's a lot more reasons than 3, but I just gave 3 in that episode. The first thing I said is just like my personal beliefs. I think gambling is greedy. I don't think it's right. I think it's unwise. I think it's destructive. The second thing I said was that it's ruining the product. Sports doesn't become pure competition anymore. If there are athletes, coaches, referees, whoever affecting the outcome of the result, especially from within. And then the third reason is I just think it puts athletes in dangerous positions, in compromising positions, and it ruins their well-being. On Wednesday, I spoke about how players from different sports deal with death threats because of their performance. That's a heavy burden to carry on top of all the other pressure that athletes do face. And so with all the news that's come out in the last day or so, it's on the one hand, it's frustrating that this is a thing. But on the other hand, I think we need to start having more conversations about sports betting and the impact it's having on sports or the sports industry. Because the gambling industry and the sports industry, although they aren't the same thing, obviously not, but because there's a lot of investment from the gambling industry into the sports industry is getting quite a lot of resources from the gambling industry through sponsorships and so on. We see this in the Premier League where majority of the clubs in the league are sponsored by, or like their front of shirt sponsor is a gambling or betting company. So unfortunately, it is increasing, and even here in South Africa, we have an abundance of betting advertisements just popping up everywhere. And the frustrating thing with sport is that most sports are geared or aimed at a very diverse group of people, a diverse demographic. You could argue and say, okay, most sports are directed towards men, fair enough. But it's men of all ages. It's not just a 30-year-old who's a working professional. It could be a 13-year-old. It could be an 8-year-old. It could be a 10-year-old. It could be a 60-year-old. There's a lot of variety when it comes to your average sports viewer. And that's why it's an even bigger issue that gambling is coming into our faces, essentially, into the world of sports. You can't watch a sports game without a gambling ad coming up. You can't watch a sports game without seeing your team, or maybe let's say you support a team that has a gambling sponsor, like Aston Villa, for example. If you're an Aston Villa fan, you buy that shirt, that gambling company is going to be there, and you essentially market them everywhere you go. And because sports isn't like a plus 18 thing, your average sports, maybe there are some other more violent sports where viewer discretion is advised, but soccer or basketball or rugby, those are sports that people of all ages should be able to enjoy without having harmful ideas promoted in their faces. And the same thing can be said for alcohol as well. Like, if this is supposed to be a family-friendly environment, and this is where you can maybe ask questions of the sports industry. If this is supposed to be a family-friendly environment, then it's not the most beneficial thing to have the alcohol ads with beers and whiskey and all these things being promoted. Same thing with gambling. If it's for people that are above 18, why are you advertising it when there is a good amount of viewers that probably aren't 18? And that's the dilemma in which we find ourselves in today as people who love sports. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Before we dive back into the episode, I'd love it if you could take a quick moment to support this podcast. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leaving a review or a rating goes a long way. And if you're watching on YouTube, a like, a comment, or even subscribing would mean the world to me. All right, that's enough from my side. Let's get back into the show. Gambling ruins the purity of the game. With the situation in the NBA where it was the head coach of the Trailblazers, then it was Terry Rozier, and then Damon Jones. Two of the three are currently involved in the league, and one is a former player, and I don't know if he was a coach as well. But imagine now, you were a part of that team, part of the Charlotte Hornets or the Miami Heat. And all of these are allegations, so it's not as if they are guilty. It's innocent until proven guilty, but it's not the first time we've seen these gambling incidences in the NBA. I mean, Jonte Porter not too long ago, but even the Premier League, we saw Sandro Tonali banned for quite some time because of gambling. Like, I don't want to, like, if I'm an athlete, or if I'm a staff member, if I'm a coach, if I'm working within a team, an organization, a club, and I'm Monday to Sunday working as hard as I possibly can to achieve a result on the weekend or whenever the sports game is, and I find out that somebody within the team is trying deliberately to work against the common objective that we're all striving to get towards, that becomes a problem, because it's unfair on the staff members, it's unfair on your teammates, it's unfair on the coaches, it's unfair on your players, it's unfair on the fans who are paying money to watch their team. It becomes tainted. And so I think in the next few months, and maybe this FBI investigation is what triggers conversations around sports betting in the sports industry, and how beneficial is it, because now it's fully legal and now betting companies are popping up left, right, and center. But I think these conversations will start to become a thing where we ask the question of, like, hey, how much pure sport is being promoted? And what I mean by pure sport is just watching sport for the enjoyment. Because the betting ads, it's never you supporting your team. It's always like generic guys watching sports to try and win money. And to me, that's unfortunate, because sports is such a fun activity. It's something that brings the family together, something that can bring a community together. It doesn't need to be ruined by someone or a group of people trying to win money off of the game, hoping that this player misses so that they can have an extra, like, I don't know, 300 Rand. I don't understand those things. And maybe you bet. Maybe you are into sports betting. I would love to hear your opinion and your thoughts on it, and maybe we can have a discussion. But I just don't understand how professional sports leagues can work hand in hand with the betting industry or the gambling industry. A big obvious reason is, yes, because of the funding, because of the sponsorships, the massive brand deals. I understand that, but I think you have to be careful, because you can actually ruin a whole product. You can ruin the game or the match for your average fan who has an interest in your team, who has an interest in your league, but they're just being flooded with gambling stuff. And think about those who are recovering from gambling addictions, and they're trying to get into sport and they're trying to enjoy themselves, and then left, right and center, the team is named now after a gambling company. The stadiums are named after a gambling company. It just becomes unbearable. And yeah, not really a fun time. So I'm not surprised that Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier and Damon Jones were arrested. I'm not surprised that that's a thing. I think it's happening a lot more. I mean, it has been happening. Gambling in sports is not a new thing, but now that it's legal, what's happening is more people are being enabled to do it out in the open. And I feel bad for the players and coaches and families involved in professional sports, because there's a lot of people around them who aren't involved in professional sports, but because of the accessibility to gambling and betting apps, there's people around them that are in their ear just saying like, hey bro, we've been friends for like 10 years. Nobody says this, but I mean, if you have a friend and you guys go way back, then there's a natural loyalty that has been developed. And so if your friend is a bit low on cash and he says, okay, I just have to bet 300 Rand, and if you play it like this, then I will take home 4,000 Rand, for example. As a friend, and especially athletes historically, unfortunately, and this is not every athlete, we've seen a lot of strong character displays from athletes in the past few years. But historically, athletes haven't always been the wisest when it comes to off the field dealings. They're not therapists, they're not pastors, but they are professional athletes, and that's what they're good at. But unfortunately, sometimes they aren't good at the financial management. They aren't good at the moral stuff off the field when it comes to alcohol or women or substance abuse or gambling and whatnot. So oftentimes they find themselves in positions where they can get exploited by people that they trust. And then it leads to a Jonte Porter, for example, or a Terry Rozier, where these guys are deliberately affecting the outcome of a game. Like I said earlier, it's unfair to all the people within the organization or the team that worked hard only for you to secretly affect the game. It doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem cool. And so it'll be interesting how this story plays out and how it develops. And of course, we know that I think Chauncey Billups was involved with the mafia actually as well. So it's not just betting on the games, allegedly. It's not just betting on the games, but also there's some mafia involvement too, which now becomes a little bit more dangerous than, oh, I'm going to make my team lose on purpose. Now it becomes a thing of life and death. And you don't want athletes, you don't want people working in the professional sports industry to have to alter things, to have to be involved with mafia poker games. You want them to be able to focus on their craft, on providing a good product, because sports is entertainment at the end of the day, and you don't want to rig it. It's not cool. And sports is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I'm going to emphasize this again. And it's unfortunate that we are having these cases like illegal gambling and betting. It's unfortunate that we have an abundance of sports betting. On TikTok, I posted a little short clip, and one of the comments said, "You're alone on this one, bro." And it was interesting because I think the person posted or commented that on my TikTok page before all the NBA stuff came out, and then the NBA stuff came out, and it's like, I think a lot more people who just enjoy sports for sports sake, who can just sit in front of the TV or go to a stadium, just enjoy their team running up and down and scoring or not scoring, losing, winning, whatever. There's a good amount of people that are actually repelled by the betting that has been only growing for the last few years. So I don't think I'm alone on this one. Let me know what you think. But for this episode, I think it's safe to park it here. It'll be interesting to see how it develops, how this story specifically with the NBA and betting and gambling develops over the weekend. Hoping you have a good weekend as well. I will be focusing on that Manchester United versus Brighton game. I think that's going to be a massive one for Ruben Amorim's team. If they can get a result in that fixture, then yeah, United has some serious momentum. It's going to be a good week as well in the Premier League, and then also just globally in terms of sport. I will see you on Monday. For now, have a good weekend. This is the 42 Sports Podcast, for the athlete to the world.